Welcome to our community. Susie Thomas with you this morning. We are welcoming Mary Kreitz. She is a licensed counselor and the lead of the trauma program at the Child and Adolescent Behavioral Health. Good morning.
Good morning.
You've been probably doing a lot of speaking because today we are going to focus on something that's been affecting our community for the last year or so, definitely this last school year. We've never seen so many teens or recent high school graduates come to such a dark place that they see no way out other than to take their own lives. We've not seen this kind of a situation that I can remember where there's been, sometimes there's one and it rocks you, but to have the number of young people that have gone to that place this year, I think has got everybody scratching their heads. The CDC recently here to try and see if there's anything that they can put their finger on. Mary, first of all, when you heard about the first one, what did that do to you? And then as they continued to mount up, can you tell me about, like, from your perspective, what this year has been like?
Well, it's always sad when you hear about anyone getting to that place where they feel like the only option left available to them is to end their life. That's a horrible place to be in, and I feel so sad for that person that they were in that desperate of a place, that sad of a place, that hurt of a place. And I feel awful for their family and for their friends who are left behind and are trying to put together what happened and what, of course, the automatic questions of what could I have done, what did I miss, did I say something that contributed to this, did I do something that, hurt this person and made them decide that this is what they needed to do. So that those are all kind of thoughts that immediately come to mind. And then as it keeps happening again and again, and especially some of them have been concentrated in certain schools. And so then I think about how the environment at that school is just, everyone is traumatized.
Yes.
Everyone is affected by that. And how do you function from day to day when you're just waiting to know who's going to be next?
Is it possible that that's what they might have been after? I wonder if I did this, I could cause such a reaction and I would finally get some kind of attention that I must not be getting right now, without seeing the bigger picture that there would not be there would not be a tomorrow. There would not even be an opportunity to see that reaction that you caused. I don't know that a young person understands the finality of what they're talking about. Your thoughts on that?
It's really hard to know what anybody is thinking when they're no longer here to tell us what they're thinking. So I always encourage caution in trying to guess what another person is thinking or what their motivation might have been. But one thing that comes to mind is that this person, their thinking is not clear. When they're getting to that point that they're feeling this way, their thinking has already started to distort a little bit so that they're not seeing the broad picture of everything that's going on. And very often they tend to get kind of a filter where they have more emphasis on things that are going wrong or things that they've done that didn't go the way that they wanted or didn't turn out the way that they wanted. They're going to pay more attention to criticism and rejection and less to those times when someone was welcoming and happy to see them or dismiss things that people say that are nice and go, oh, well, if they only knew the real me, that kind of thing. So there already is some distortion. And you're right when you're saying that, did they see the big picture of what's going on? Probably not, because a lot of us fall into that in our day-to-day lives. We get so caught up in the details of what we're doing from moment to moment, and we lose sight of the bigger picture of where are we going and how is this affecting other people. And when someone is in a really desperate situation and they're becoming suicidal, I think that happens even more so. You lose that bigger picture. You don't necessarily know, is there something else I could be doing? Is this going to have the effect that I want? Or is there something else I could do that could bring about the effect that I want? If I want attention, can I get it in other ways, in positive ways? If I want to be recognized, what else can I do to be recognized?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody matters to someone, but if you don't realize that you matter or realize how much you matter, then it's easy to miss chances to really enjoy how much you matter.
Yes. You say distorted thinking. Let's go back to that.
Okay.
Are there things that cause our thinking to become distorted? Lack of sleep, eating properly, just exercise, just the basic things that we're all told to do to take care of ourselves, because behavioral health is mental health and it's physical health.
Yes.
What kinds of things can be done to keep a person's thinking from becoming distorted in the first place?
Well, there's a lot of things that can be done. As you mentioned, things like sleep. When a person doesn't have enough sleep, their brain does not operate the way that it ought to.
Right.
And there have been studies looking at the way that sleep affects driving. A person who has had low sleep operates a car similar to the way a person who is drunk will operate a car. And so when you look at that in terms of other functions that they're doing, your brain, when it doesn't have enough sleep, can't do the logical thinking and problem solving and processing out, if I do this, then the consequences might be this.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have the same reaction time, so that it takes you longer to come around to really understanding a situation. And it might be that you missed a very critical opportunity because things are slowed and distorted and just not working the way that they ought to because you haven't had enough sleep.
It's tricky. Let me stop you right there. Tricky for parents of teens to enforce bedtime. Because, they're starting to branch out on their own a little bit. There would be, you can have curfew, and they could be home. That doesn't guarantee that they're going to be in bed asleep. That just guarantees that they're inside the house.
That's true. And there's a whole physical shift that happens with adolescence and the onset of puberty where their sleep-wake cycles shift so that teens are more likely to want to stay up all night and sleep later in the day. And it isn't just because they want to stay up and play on the computers or be on their phones all night, but it's a biological shift in their circadian rhythms.
Interesting.
So some of it is very difficult for parents to enforce because we also still have school schedules that start early in the morning, and you want that child to be able to get enough sleep before they have to get up in the morning. So you do want them to go to bed at a reasonable time, but their body is saying, we're not ready for sleep yet.
That's right. And you mentioned a very interesting point. You throw in the electronics at the same time. So staring at a glowing screen all night affects your sleep. Yes?
Yes. Even some of the light waves coming off of the screens, the blue light coming from the screens triggers our bodies to be awake and alert. And most of the things that we're looking at on those screens are designed to be rapidly moving and flashing in bright colors and sounds to keep us more awake. And unless somebody is actively seeking out a calming, relaxing kind of an app to help them get ready for sleep, it really can do a lot to disrupt their sleep patterns.
Oh, I've learned that the hard way. You do not play Candy Crush trying to follow it right before bed. It just won't work. And when you finally do fall asleep, you'll dream of little dropping candies. And not good. What can we do in matters of prevention? Before we went on the air, you were saying, there are signs, and we will talk about those. But what about before a person begins to exhibit signs? What can we do to keep our children mentally, physically, and behaviorally healthy?
Well, one of the biggest things we have to do is stay engaged with our children, talk to them. From the time that they're little, we have to let them know that we are there and open to hearing even the most difficult things from them. Kids don't want to hurt their families. They know that their parents care, and they know that sharing some of their fears and their distress is distressing to their parents. And sometimes they don't want to put that on their parents. They don't want to burden them or make them sad. And so sometimes what we have to do is make sure that they have other people in their lives that they can confide in. Even if they can't come to me, their mom, is there an aunt? Is there a teacher? Is there someone at church? Is there someone in the neighborhood that is a safe person that can be trusted, that they could go to, and making sure that our kids know who those people are and that those people care also.
Is there something about being able to put what's going through their minds into words that somehow makes it not as threatening, and not as a big of a deal? It somehow, you name it, you're able to talk about it, and somehow it's not the big boogeyman anymore. Is there something about that?
Yes, there is definitely value in that. It's often very hard to find the words for that, because when you're in the middle of it, it feels big and scary, and you don't want to make it sound trite, that, oh, well, this is all you're going through, because we don't want to minimize how big the feeling is and how much that's affecting you. But being able to name it and describe it and have someone else say, yes, I understand, or even, oh, I've had that thought too.
That's exactly what I was thinking, that not being invited to prom can feel like the earth is ending, the world is coming, it's not spinning on its axis anymore. Being able to say out loud, I didn't get invited to prom, that almost starts to sound like, oh, okay. And then to have a mom or dad say, you know what, I didn't go to the prom, and here's why. Oh, so there's another person, you've been there, you've shared that. Right. Suddenly it starts to not eat you up anymore.
Right. It's not the end of the world. And I think, honestly, that's another thing that we have to do for our kids, is to moderate our expectations. We need to let them know that it's okay to fail. It's okay if you don't come in first. It's okay if you don't get asked to prom. It's okay if you're not prom queen or king. It's okay if you're ordinary.
And we all learn more from the times we fail than we learn from the times everything goes perfectly.
Yes.
Anyway, so failure's good. I'm kind of a fan of failing every once in a while.
Yeah.
It's a good thing.
It gives you a chance to learn and to struggle. And then when you really do achieve something, it feels great because you had that struggle and that obstacle to overcome. And having the chance to fail is the only way you get that opportunity to struggle like that. If everything came easy, you can't really appreciate
not at all
what the process of going through it is like. But to let them know they're not the only one that has failed. They're not the only one that has struggled with this.
Oh my goodness. That's right. Every single person on the earth, except for one that I can think of, has never failed. So, it's and also you kind of think, all right, what's the worst that can happen? Okay. And then put words to that. Okay, that's not so bad. If that's the worst that can happen, okay then.
If that's the worst that can happen. And sometimes we need someone else to be able to give us that perspective check on it. That, oh, your boyfriend broke up with you, so you don't deserve to live anymore because this guy doesn't want to date you.
Right. It says more about him than about you.
Yes. But in that moment, yes, that rejection feels awful. And you don't want to say, oh, it's not a big deal, but it's not a life-ending big deal.
Right. Never let another person determine your mood.
Right. Or your value.
Yes.
Someone else does not get to decide that I am not a valuable person.
That's right. Good words. We're visiting with Mary Kreitz. She's from Child and Adolescent Behavioral Health. We'll be back after these words. You're listening to Our Community.